breakout rooms have a bit of a notorious reputation. I've done my fair share of lessons where I've entered a breakout room to find kids just staring into the void. Hello! Or maybe just talking irrelevant poppycock. However, when done correctly and with a few tweaks, breakout rooms can be a really valuable tool which promotes that student-to-student collaboration and communication. Also, don't kids go to school not just to learn, but to get their social needs met and to have an opportunity to develop their social skills through interacting with other people? Isn't it cruel enough that we lock the kids up at home for months on end without then depriving them of the ability to interact with their classmates? So this teacher sets up the breakout room the wrong way. Let's have a look at what they do wrong. You are going to go in a breakout room in a group of 4, and you are going to think of a new restaurant. You're then going to design a menu for your restaurant. Think of the starters, main courses, side dishes, drinks, and dessert. So remember, it's a new restaurant and you need to think of the starters, main courses, side dishes, drinks, and desserts. Off you go. So this teacher made a lot of mistakes that I know I've made in the past with breakout rooms. So I think the first thing the teacher did wrong was dive straight into the activity without putting some prior steps in place. We shouldn't just suddenly drop a breakout room on the students. They should know that it's coming and be prepared for it. You're probably familiar with the I do, we do, you do method. Well, that's the same for breakout rooms. So before you get the students to do the room, it's important that you have activities as a whole class to practice what they need to actually do in the breakout room. So the second thing could be that the reason for the students' silence is that they actually don't know the functional language to talk to each other. They might not know simple phrases like, what should we do next? You go next, you go first. Do you have any ideas? Next thing could simply be social awkwardness and nobody wants to initiate the conversation. Maybe the kids have been put in a group with students that they don't normally speak to, and it's a bit unclear whose job it is to start the conversation. The last thing is no accountability. The teacher just asked the students to talk to each other in the breakout room, but they don't have to produce anything concrete at the end. So to a student, this could seem a bit meaningless, and they don't really understand the point of the activity. So if you actually get them to produce something concrete, they'll take more responsibility for their work and be more motivated to do it to a higher standard. To make students more accountable for their work in breakout rooms, here's my top tip. I always use a Google Doc with breakout rooms. So you'll remember that teacher was trying to get his kids to go into breakout rooms and design a menu. Let's do it again, but let's do it the smart way. So what I've done is I've made this big document which all the students will have access to and go into and edit. You'll notice I've got these different color sections. So what I did was I made like a virtual worksheet with all the instructions. And then I copied it. And then I changed the color of the border just so the students are clear which one they have to write in. I'm not normally a fan of making really detailed worksheets and things like that before my lessons. But I think in the case of breakout rooms, it is necessary because they're not going to have a teacher to watch them and guide them through the project. They need to work independently, so you need to give them more support and instructions than you normally would. Let's fast forward now to the lesson. First, I will demonstrate to the students what they have to do. So I'll get this up on my screen. I'll walk them through the task.
Demonstrations are so important in Zoom. Don't just dive into the activity because they haven't got the teacher there to help them as much as in a normal class. Now, the next thing I want my kids to do is join the Google Doc. Now, this is the part of the lesson where there's definitely going to be a bit of a kerfuffle. First, the kids have got to join the breakout room, then they've got to join the Google Doc, and then they've got to find the right place to write in the doc. Don't worry, this is the age of Zoom teaching. Don't expect perfection. And once you've done this kind of activity a few times, the kids will get used to the routine of opening and joining everything. Now what I want to do is share it with the class. So all I do is press copy link, and then I've got the link and I can paste that in the meeting chat. Now I've got it on my preferred setting. Anyone on the internet can edit if they have the link. But normally you'll find it's in this restricted section, which means you have to manually add all the emails of the people you want to view it. So don't bother with that if you want to preserve your sanity. Well, you can either share it with people with your school's email address or anyone with the link. I think anyone with the link is easier. Even if your kids have school email addresses, very often they're logged into their parents' account. They can't open the document. So just do anyone with the link. And now if you notice, it says anyone with the link can view. Well, I don't want them to view. I want them to actually go in and be able to edit and change the document. So we need to click here, editor. So now we're good to go. Once I've pasted this in the chat, they've opened it, the students are free to edit it as much as they want. Now, the next thing I have to do, if I'm a student, is find my breakout room. So imagine my name is George. Let's see, where am I, George? Okay, George. So George is in breakout room 4. So what I've done as a teacher is plan the rooms before the lesson and write all the kids' names or type all the kids' names in the rooms. This is because I know that some of my kids need really specific instructions, and it will be too confusing for them if they've got to find the corresponding number to the room they're in. If you have older kids, maybe you could try this. So don't bother write their names. They just find the room. But this is what I prefer. I've also then decided roles for the kids in the room. So remember what I said earlier, they're often unclear about whose role it is to initiate the conversation. If you assign roles, especially room leader, then it's much clearer and they'll take more responsibility. So John, in this case, John is the leader. The next thing the kids will look at is the task. So I've made sure that I've put the instructions to the task in the document. Make sure you do this. Never give the instructions and then send them in the breakout room. They're bound to forget the instructions in all the kerfuffle that will happen with joining the room. You'll remember I talked about lack of functional language to work as a group. So I put it here, useful language. I've also stressed that it's the job of the room leader or room captain or whatever to use this language, to initiate conversation and transition to the different stages of the project. Here's the first part of the document where they need to type something. So they need to agree on a restaurant name and type it. You notice I've given them a little model to help them here. This is important because if they are the kind of kids who have no ideas, they will be stuck and there's no teacher to probe them and give them inspiration. Okay, so let's assume they choose, I don't know, they choose the lucky hippo, and then they start making their menu. So what could they do? They could have I don't know, satay, chicken skewers for their Starter. Now, the reason why I've put all the students in one document is that it makes it super easy for the teacher to monitor everything. I can see every group working live. So let's zoom out. Let's zoom out. And it's later in the lesson now. Let's see how the different groups are doing. Okay, so I can see that group 1 is doing okay. Group 2, yes, they've got some ideas there. But oh no. Group 3 haven't written anything. So I know that I should go into their breakout room and find out what's going on. This is much better than going around all the breakout rooms in numerical order. I can actually give help to the students who clearly need it more. The final thing that's really important to stress is that you need a lot of time. Some rooms will have problems and 5 minutes into the task, they still haven't written anything. Never just shove this on the end of a lesson. Make it the main productive task in your lesson. It's also worth having something for fast finishers to do, because some kids will fly through this. Other kids will take 5 minutes to even start chatting. So let's see. I admit this is a weakness of my Google Doc. So let me think, what fast finisher activity could I add to this? Okay, I know. So finisher activity, so finished. What can we do? Well, I know. How much do you think food? Maybe I should say, let's say each item, because we have drinks. Each item adds the prices. I think this is a good fast finisher activity because it not only keeps everyone occupied, it also requires a bit of higher order thinking while they try and figure out what an appropriate price is for each item. So that will provide a nice level of challenge for the stronger kids.
So I hope that little walkthrough of Google Docs was useful to you. And for a quick recap, here are the main points about how to use a Google Doc and a breakout room effectively. Thank you very much for making it to the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.